Well, welcome back, everyone, to SOFIC 2018. How we doing? Hey, let me just start off with this right off the get-go. Go Lightning! All right, listen, y'all, welcome back. It's good to have you all back. I want to, one, thank you all for taking what I said this morning seriously and to heart. Participation sport. Thank you for participating. That's what's going to make this venue, this forum, well worthwhile, is the strategic dialogue that we're going to have. So let me first thank, now with the CG here, so you can hear me say it, but thank you, sir. Thank you, your staff and SOCOM, providing this opportunity and this time that's going to be well spent. Thank you very much. I want to also take a quick opportunity to thank our sponsors. Again, our premier sponsors, Bank of America Merrill Lynch and Lockheed Martin, and our elite sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, CACI, Dell EMC, General Dynamics, iDirect Government, Jabil Defense and Aerospace, and Northrop Grumman. I want to continue to encourage you all to visit the exhibits. Over 900 booths and exhibits for you all to network and collaborate with. Also be sure to go outside to the marina and the outside displays. We do have one cancellation for tomorrow, and that's our 1300 K9 demo. Due to a family emergency, we're not going to be able to offer that. I would also ask a lot of participation down here on the Innovation Showcase. We are currently missing 11 transmitters, so they're easy to walk away with. Just when you get a time, go back and return the transmitters to the folks at the Innovation Showcase. Much appreciated. I would tell you that this forum is a wonderful opportunity to do more than just pass out business cards. As I mentioned this morning, this is where ideas will come up, where we can service our special operations community of interest that we all hold so dear. I would also ask that you let me, and I know Mr. Mayor is going to walk up here as soon as I start mentioning his name, but it is an absolute honor and a privilege for me to introduce the mayor of this great city. You all know Mayor Robert Buckhorn, Jr., a man that truly needs no introduction, but, sir, I'm going to try real briefly here. And it's mainly through the mayor's efforts, his personal leadership, that Tampa, a city that has recently been recognized as a top city for entrepreneurs, the best city in the Southeast, one of the hottest cities for startups, top city to invest in housing, and one of the fastest growing metro areas in the country, from its vibrant and rapidly expanding urban core to the unending charm of its diverse neighborhoods, Tampa's time has come. So after a long service of history, he was elected to serve as the mayor. I will tell you that he's a proud graduate of Penn State University, and it is my distinct honor to introduce a truly strategic and visionary leader for this city, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon, General Thomas. As always, thank you. And to all of you, thank you for allowing us to host you. Those of you who live here understand, but those of you who may not live here, we are a military town. We obviously are home to MacDill Air Force Base and the 6th Air Mobility Wing, but more particularly, Headquarters Command for Special Operations Command and for CENTCOM, the only base that headquarters two warfighting commands, and we are honored to do that. How many of you are from Washington, D.C.? You're going down. I'm just telling you. The Bolts are going to rule. And you picked one heck of a time to come here. The only time more exciting than this is when the Gasparilla invasion occurs, when the pirates invade and they too take me hostage. I seem to have made a living of being taken hostage. I don't understand what this is all about. But we enjoy having the opportunity not only to be home to McGill Air Force Base and to all of the veterans that serve and their families, but we love to host this event. We have done this for a number of years. We love telling Tampa's story to the world. We love hosting the war fighters and the commands, and those of you that support the commands. Those of you that have not been here in a while, this is an entirely different city. This is a city where the best and the brightest are coming. This is that city of hope and that city of destiny and that city that will soon house, because the mayor needs a ring, the Stanley Cup. Lord Stanley needs a tan. Yeah, enjoy that, D.C. But we love having you here, and we love what you do for our military friends and families. This is going to be an interesting week. Hopefully the weather will hold. There's going to be an amazing display tomorrow. There's going to be some bad people running around. I thought the only bad people in this town were the city council. But when you see them take that hostage tomorrow, know that it's me. This will be my last year that I will be able to do that, because I am term limited out in May of next year. So when you see me coming back on that 50 cal with that big smile on my face, you will know that I have enjoyed every minute of my relationship with SOCOM, going back to General Downing in probably 1991 to this day. We love what you do. We honor what you do. We appreciate what you do. And I can tell you on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people that I'm lucky enough to represent, that we are lucky to call you members of our community. And for all of our partners that support you, just know that you too have a special place in our hearts. Now, in recognition of that, for the last time for me, now therefore I, Bob Buckhorn, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tampa, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 21st through the 24th as the 2018 International Special Operations Forces Week in the city of Tampa, Florida, and urge all of our citizens to join me in welcoming all those attending and thank them for their extraordinary efforts that they are making on our nation's behalf. For those of you still in harm's way, may God keep you and may God bless you. We are lucky to have you on Team America. Thank you. Let's have a great week.
All right. Before I introduce the CG, let me go over one quick admin announcement. We're going to use a thing called Slido for the Q&A portion after the CG's remarks and Jim Smith's, the acquisition executive's remarks. And those questions will pop up on the screen down here so the CG and Jim can see that. Now, you know, I'm a product of the South Carolina education system, and I can make this thing work, so I know you can. We used it fairly successfully in our morning general session. It is an audience participation platform. It allows you to type in your questions for the CG and Jim. You can also like a question. That will propel it up to the top of the queue. So we get the questions that matter most to you answered. And so we're going to try that out. So let me first say thank you all again for being here. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce a good friend of mine. And you all know him as General Tony Thomas. You know him as your 11th commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command. You all know his assignments well and what he's done. But what you probably don't know, if you don't look deep enough in his bio, is that he should tell you, he probably won't, but that his most memorable assignment was as the Assistant Division Commander Sustainment for the 1st Armored Division, a big old tank division. And he was my wingman. And I was honored and privileged, and I am so very proud to stand up here today introduce General Tony Thomas. So without any further ado, sir, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to be here for our Special Operations Force Industry Conference. Thanks, Mayor Buckhorn. Bob, as always, thanks for being our host, and thanks for the extraordinary support that this greater Tampa area provides to the MacDill military community. You all absolutely sustain us to the nth degree. The mayor mentioned tomorrow will be his last official opportunity to play our hostage in the demonstration that'll go down. I think he relishes this job a little too much, and you'll see him take it out on the media, I think, as he comes back in armed with a 50 cal machine gun. Bob, this is your last official time to do this, but I've actually already put in an exception to policy to maybe bring you back on waivers next year. So just keep your powder dry. To my fellow flag and general officers, our partners from industry, academia, our federal and university-affiliated research labs, welcome to the 2017 Special Operations Forces Industry Conference here in Tampa. I also want to issue a special welcome to our international SOF teammates who are our guests for the 2018 International Special Operations Forces. We have almost 70 different countries represented here today. We've spent the last 2 days meeting with our compatriots from those countries. Our focus at ISOF this year is interoperability, certainly a topic that's apropos to this conference. Our international partners are critical to our success around the globe. In an increasing number of operations and locations, we are working alongside our international partners at unprecedented levels of integration toward our common objectives. Tomorrow, you will have the special privilege of observing SOF operators from 7 of our partner nations as they join our U.S. Special Operations Force units in a capabilities demonstration right outside of here in downtown Tampa. From all of our SOCOM team, we are very thankful to have so many teammates join us for this event. I'd like to thank NDIA President Hawk Carlisle, NDIA Chief of Staff Jim Boozer, my former wingman there at 1st Armored Division, and the SOFIC team for putting this week's events together. A warm welcome and special thanks to the Honorable Ellen Lord for her willingness to be our SOFIC keynote speaker tomorrow and for her steadfast support to SOF through the years. I'm sure it's not lost on anyone that events of this size and scope do not just happen. They result from diligent planning and execution in 1,000 big and small ways. So I want to offer my sincere appreciation to the management and staff of the Tampa Convention Center and all our attendees, many of whom traveled great distances to join us today. The purpose behind this extraordinary event we call SOFIC is to bring together stakeholders in the special operations enterprise from military, government, academia, and industry to discuss and drive solutions to today's hardest problems and to explore the current and future trends of technology and industry for future challenges. This week is an opportunity to reflect on the progress we have made so far and to consider the next phase in our relentless pursuit of excellence in special operations. As we assemble here today, there are approximately 9,000 U.S. Special Operations Forces deployed across 90 countries, conducting the entire range of special operations activities across the spectrum of conflict. Fully 75% of those activities, or those organizations rather, are conducting operations left of bang or left of crisis, building partner capability, reducing risk of open conflict, and responding quickly to emerging crises that threaten wider instability. In support of these operations, USSOCOM's charter assigns us service-like responsibilities to provide special operations peculiar equipment and services to support all of these far-flung efforts. In today's increasingly complex global security environment, characterized by overt and hidden challenges to a stable and open international order, there is an almost insatiable demand for Special Operations Forces' unique capabilities across the spectrum of global relationships, from peaceful cooperation through competition short of armed conflict to major combat operations. That speaks volumes about our tremendous Special Operations Force organizations. But U.S. Special Operations Forces rarely work alone in this mission space. We are conducting our activities in close coordination with conventional forces, our interagency colleagues, and international partners. And because the application of military power is only one element of an effective solution to our security challenges, we work closely with diplomatic, intelligence, and industry partners to bring all the elements of national power to bear on our mission objectives. In and among all of these activities, we appreciate the fact that we are the beneficiaries of a remarkable acquisitions enterprise that connects our operational formations with a robust segment of our innovative and productive free market. We cannot sustain a force of over 9,000 personnel in 90 countries without the products and services that you deliver to us daily. Industry teammates are an inseparable part of our enterprise and demonstrate the fifth SOF truth, that most special operations require non-SOF support. We are in this together. SOCOM cannot achieve its mission without you. This year we celebrated SOCOM's 31st birthday, the 31st anniversary since our creation by Congress. For 21 of those years, we have executed this industry conference. As we consider our history, including the past 17 years of continuous combat, we acknowledge that SOF's unique material and service requirements were part of the original intent behind the establishment of a Special Operations Command. Our close and active partnership with industry is part of our rich legacy. Each time we host SOFIC, our intent is to walk away smarter and more integrated in our approach to solving the pressing problems of our SOF men and women. For the challenges our force will face in emerging operating environment, SOF will require an array of systems that will increase our lethality, maneuverability, and survivability. Our operators will continue to require body armor, ballistic helmet systems, and communications gear of a quality that will exceed our adversaries. We will continue to need lighter, farther-ranging, and more accurate weapons. These are bedrock requirements for the type of work we do in SOF. The future battlefield will, however, require more from our enterprise than these. In an increasingly data-driven, networked, miniaturized, automated world where goods, information, and people move across the globe at a more furious pace, none of us can afford to ignore the implications on our operations. A SOF operator, and by operator I mean any of our teammates executing tasks under the conditions we work in, be it direct action or logistics or information operations, is faced with an increasingly difficult task of making more and more accurate and timely decisions than ever before. At the same time, they are operating at the edge of communications and logistics networks plagued with bandwidth and signature constraints. Our challenge, the one we share, is developing, testing, and fielding systems that enable us to make those decisions and take those actions at the right time, rapidly, and consistently. Success in our combat development endeavors will be achieved through a persistent application of the integrated product team method, bringing together the operators and the capabilities development experts, those men and women who bear the responsibility of executing the mission, and their teammates with the technical and programmatic expertise to find, acquire, and field solutions that meet program objectives must be forged together into a cohesive effort. The new technological opportunities and challenges ahead will require us to redouble our efforts to make these IPTs efficient and effective. The standard for success in this endeavor is beyond where we are today. Our acquisitions processes, the speed of development, and timeline from conception through deployment in these critical domains are outcycled by the trends and speed in private sector technological development. Our adversaries benefit from the proliferation of these advanced capabilities with immediate availability in the global marketplace at very low cost. When data science, artificial intelligence, automated systems like miniature drones, and secure communications have become commodities available to all, and our operators are simply another set of consumers, we all need to know that we are incurring increasing risks to our force and our mission. ISR is a compelling example. ISR is changing at an indescribably rapid pace. More and better sensors means more data. Our operators have a variety of capable and advanced sensors at their disposal, with handheld devices streaming video feeds from a variety of platforms. The platforms range from hand-deployable UAVs to larger manned and unmanned assets. But we should not be fooled. Our adversaries, and I'm not speaking necessarily of state-sponsored threats, I'm talking about the small startup violent extremists with an advanced technical degree from institutions as prestigious as any of you have attended, or with knowledge and technical training that they have gained from online learning platforms, they have the ability to close the gap because of technology market trends. Commercially available satellite imagery delivered to your personal smartphone is no longer a privileged domain of our forces. In this rapidly evolving environment, for the purposes of future combat development, we should consider the technology and platforms that today's SOF use as legacy systems, already legacy systems, whose sunset is nearly upon us. Incremental improvements to legacy systems will not give us the advantage we need for future successes. Add to that this thought. By the time I complete my tenure at SOCOM next year, I will have approved the program of objective memorandum that will drive our force development for the next decade. In this POM, we will address our future fixed-wing and rotary wing requirements. We will lay out our path forward on surface and subsurface mobility and ground mobility. We will define our investments in SOF-specific space and cyber programs, precision weapons, and cutting-edge communications networks. Our decisions and discussions today, the results from forums at SOFIC, will be a major factor in what our forces fight with and what technologies they will use for years to come. We are challenged together to make decisions of this import while facing a more rapid cycle of technological advancement. This must be accomplished by new and more effective ways of doing business. We, once again, I mean all of us here together, have an opportunity this week to begin that turn towards the future. As we move forward, we must keep in mind that while the specific requirements may originate within the SOF enterprise, the benefits to the broader joint force and our international partners are significant. I believe we've debunked the myth that SOF acquisition is a niche activity, not exportable and not scalable. SOCOM contributes consistently to combat development initiatives among the services, partnering with them to ensure that our successes are shared. Original SOF development of mobility, precision weapons, aviation, command and control systems, and tactical communications are just a few examples of how we contribute to the overall lethality of the joint force. We know that our coalition efforts are reinforced and interoperability is increased by our ability to share our innovation platforms and technological expertise. SOCOM will remain a committed partner in these endeavors, and we're eager to bring our best efforts to the benefit of all for our teammates. While we work to develop and field capabilities to meet SOF-specific needs of our force, within SOCOM, we intend to refocus our efforts, enabling and reinforcing our primary weapon system and platform, our operator. Slide, please. In 2003, in the wake of a successful Special Operations Mission exercise, a young Special Mission Unit operator challenged the commander of JSOC at the time, General Stan McChrystal, to empower him to the degree required. In fact, he said quite boldly, "I've got it on actions on the objective. You need to make sure I'm successful getting there and dominating the environment that entails." This slide, depicted in 2003, I would offer was one of the most prescient visions of what we are now calling hyper-enabled operator as we go forward. You'll notice at the time, in the upper side of the slide, he showed one a UAV, just in the off chance we might ever see a Predator or a Reaper that weren't even in existence at the time. But we had our own ability to conduct sensor-to-shooter operations, and this operator demanded that it all be provided to him on a local access network on a 3x3 display on his wrist. Arguably, that operator, Chuck Gary, wounded severely in combat later on and still part of our formation, saw the future much ahead of the rest of us and set the stage for what we are to consider today. This is not just a SOF problem. Very recently, I visited the New York City Police Department, and as I sat there in their fusion cell and watched the city come to life that morning, obviously the city never sleeps, but there are some lulls, but we watched their common operation picture, as we would call it, light up with various incidents around the city. We discussed how they deal with a similar security challenge. They too have to deal with a land, maritime, air, and cyber domain as they try to safeguard that city-state called New York. They have gone to extraordinary pains to group and mass as much data as possible left of bang for their police operators, their policemen on the watch. They have also provided an interface in the form of a common phone system to link every one of their 38,000 police on the beat. Where they have not yet gone sufficiently, and they acknowledged it, and it's an area that we certainly plan to follow suit, is leveraging that data, all that information they have left to bang. Every license plate that comes into New York City, gunshot fire indicators, acoustic sensors throughout the city, the historical record of incidents throughout the time and to the places that these officers may be responding to. All that data is assembled, but it's not enabled by any sort of extensive machine learning approach, nor any crowdsourcing approach. And they acknowledge they have to get there. I think, again, a shared equity. We had a follow-on fascinating conversation about how they're integrating or not with helmet cams and body cams and things that we are already enabling with forward machine learning capabilities that will allow an operator or an officer to see what they can't see in a crowded room such as this instantaneously, dependent on the machine learning approach. Again, these are shared approaches that we must embrace going together forward. This is the direction SOCOM needs to move. We need to take the massive amount of data that we swim in and through man-machine teaming, provide the right information with the right slice of bandwidth at the lowest signature possible to enable the operator to sense, make sense, and act. It is not lost on me that the realization of such a system will rest on a complex and intricate fabric of disparate disciplines and technologies woven together to make this work. But a stroll through these exhibit halls tells me that we have the right data scientists, the programmers, the hardware engineers, the cognitive psychologists, and program managers and integrators that we need to succeed. I challenge those of you gathered here today to use this venue to its fullest. Take advantage of our innovative showcase events. Challenge our assumptions as we inspect the best of industry's wares. SOCOM has an impressive track record as an innovative force that leverages emerging technology to improve our capabilities. We recognize that no one company, university, or person has all of the answers to our most difficult technological challenges. Let us continually strive together to create new relationships across industry, academia, the government, and other partners using venues like SOFIC and our SOFWorks platform to ensure we have the right relationships to answer those challenges. Ultimately, the ability to introduce new capabilities to SOF at a rate that outpaces our adversaries will rely heavily on our collective efforts. Change is hard, but it is always preferable to irrelevance or at worst defeat. I've challenged our SOCOM team to identify and eliminate waste in our processes, streamline bureaucracy, and be relentless in responding to the operator's needs. I will close with a final word of encouragement to remember why we're all here. As you walk through the exhibits and displays, which I encourage you all to do, and as you have conversations amongst yourselves about these issues, about the issues I've laid out here, and which will continue to be unpacked throughout this week, let's remember to maintain our laser focus on why we are here, the success of the Special Operations Force operator. I'd like to now introduce SOCOM's acquisition executive, Mr. Jim Smith, who will put into context how we as a command are addressing SOCOM's priorities through acquisition, technology, and logistics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, General Thomas. Mr. West, our Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Low-Intensity Conflict, thanks for being here. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here. I think he's going that way. I'll tell you, I've been here for 9 years now, and Tampa is indeed a great place to serve, and I also think it's a great place to hold a conference. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all you've done for us. To our international partners, every other year we have you here as well, and I will tell you that your presence adds a degree of context and a degree of professionalism that just rises the tide for this conference. So thank you for being here. When I think of your presence here, I'm reminded of the proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think your presence here shows that we can really take soft capabilities for all of our interests that we hold in common very far indeed. The last group I want to thank is our industry partners for being here. There's quite a few of you, it looks like. Hey, listen, buckle up. This is our week. This is the week where we really get after the network. We build new nodes into the network. We strengthen existing nodes. and we get after our common goal, which is providing capability to those operators out there, as the CG mentioned. Hey, before I really start digging into slides, the one thing I do want to talk about, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that a year ago today on this stage was a guy named Hondo. And arguably, Hondo is a much cooler name than Jim Smith. But I will tell you this. It was either last year at this conference or 2 years ago, a friend of mine that I'd known for decades came up to me and he said, hey, he goes, I just ran into a guy. He was all excited because he had just run into somebody called Jim Smith who worked on weapons and ammunitions and missiles and stuff for USSOCOM. And this guy told my friend, I'm pretty sure it was an alias. So, Jim Smith could be an alias. I won't tell you, and you'll not find out. So, with that, here's my first slide. You can bring that up. Hey, so this is really the entire presentation in one slide. As the CG talked about, what we're really most interested in is enabling the individual operator. That's our focus. That's really what's peculiar about SOF is how much capability we provide to the individual operator. Of course, those operators come together to form our teams. And those teams are what execute the SOF activities across the full spectrum of military operations. And those teams need to be able to prevail in all scenarios against all threats. So you know how successful those teams have been in the last 17 years in the engagements that we've asked them to engage in. How successful are they, and how successful can we help them be in the future battlefields that we may face in the very near future? So they need to prevail. They need to be indomitable. And then finally, those teams are supported by that SOF peculiar equipment, everything from submersibles to satellites. And again, very successful equipment, very, very capable force. But as we move towards, as the National Defense Strategy asks us to do, into this construct of state-on-state competition and whatever comes next, how resilient are those platforms to those environments? And that's really what I'm going to talk about for the next 24 slides or so. But this is it in a nutshell. So let me start with where the CG was talking, and I'm quoting him here. I just typed this up while he was talking. The operator is our platform, and I think that's a powerful statement. As you can see on the slide, it's everything about increasing survivability, increasing their lethality, increasing their situational awareness, and increasing their ability to partner with international folks. That's where we're focused. Those of you that have been following us for the last few years know that we've had a real focus on the left-hand side of that chart with survivability. We've had our Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit program for the last several years. That program is going very well. On this stage, the commander at the time talked about the problem of the individual operator having to go through the door, knowing the risk on the other side of that door, but knowing that the reward, whether it was an American hostage or a weapon of mass destruction that needed to be secured, that the risk was worth the reward of that operation. But he challenged all of us and said, hey, what can we do to make that operator more survivable in that most dangerous situation? And so for the last few years, we've had a laser focus on that, and it's going very well. We've had some great industry partnership help with that. We've had some great government partnership help with that. We knew going into this that there was going to be a real challenge, and the real challenge has to do with you put a world-class athlete into a powered exoskeleton. That's going to be a very difficult technology challenge, and we're realizing a lot of those challenges. But this time next year, right around this time next year, we're going to be putting an operator into a powered exoskeleton and leading the DoD really on learning what that really means to operations and what's the art of the possible. In parallel and in combination with that, we've learned a lot through that Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit effort about providing greater situational awareness to the individual operator and about providing greater lethality. So as we focused on the physical domain of a powered exoskeleton, we've started to look at that digital domain as the CG introduced. So I'm going to talk a lot more detail about that in the next couple slides. But before I do that, get your cameras out, or get your cell phones out. No one actually holds cameras anymore. And because I'm going to go through the next set of slides fairly rapidly, but here's the point. I'm going to present just an overview of the things that we're interested in. What I really want you to do is get to the PEO presentations. I'll be pointing out which program executive officers are working on these problems. And then, as you know, for the rest of this week, this afternoon, tomorrow, the next morning, Thursday morning, the program executive officers and the directors will be holding sessions where you can really deep dive these problems and get into the meat of the problems. I've talked to, again, this is my 9th SOFIC. I've talked to folks that have been here before, that they come to this large forum, and then they go up to the floor, and they man their booth, and they don't get to the PEO presentations. And I'm telling you, if that's your modus operandi for this SOFIC conference, you're missing a real opportunity here. The expertise is really down around these tables down here with the program executive officers. They're the folks with the contracts. They're the folks with the money, quite honestly. And that's where you're going to get your questions really answered. So please take me up on that. Okay, so let's really focus on the hyper-enabled operator. Hyper, as the CG mentioned, really implies a continuous process. We enable the operator today. In fact, that operator on the right-hand side there has got what we call the tactical assault kit on his chest. It's an Android-based system that provides situation awareness that is far greater than what that operator had just 2 or 3 years ago. So enabling the operator is something we do. What the CG is asking is, how do we hyper-enable and take advantage of this rapidly improving technology to get ahead of it? So this is a multi-pronged process to take all of the data that's available to that individual operator, whether it's from partnered forces, whether it's from the wide array of sensor network, whether it's from the comms channels. Take that data, and then, so that it doesn't become the fog of war, turn it into information that's decision quality information. How do you alleviate that fog of war and not just be throwing data at the operator? We think that's a combination of the communication pipes that we're providing. We think it's a combination of the software and those technology-aided, decision-aided tools. You can say machine learning. I think that's part of the problem. I think there's other things that could contribute to get after turning that data into decision quality information. There's a user interface aspect of that, of course, that we're interested in. Again, one of the things we learned from the Talos program, they've got a look-down display that provides a lot of situation awareness right off the helmet to the operator. So those types of things are the things that we're looking to transition to the force in a hyper manner over time. Likewise, assured communications. So I'm going to talk a lot about the fact that the operations that we've been conducting over the last 17 years or so have been in somewhat benign environments in terms of communication, GPS, air domain, etc., all things you're familiar with. We've enjoyed a fairly clean comms environment. Obviously, the recent experiences in certain parts of the world have challenged that assumption, but what we need is to ensure that we've got assured communications to our operators. That takes on a multiple level, right? First of all, the operators require multiple channels. So we've got 2-channel radios today that'll provide for data and voice. How do we also ensure that they've got their primary means of communication, they've got an alternate means of communication, they've got a contingency means of communication, they've got an emergency means of communication? How do we ensure that the operator's got confidence that they can always connect to the network they need to connect to? Likewise, how do we ensure that the operator has the confidence that the information they're getting over their comms network is not being intercepted, spoofed, falsified? It's going to be a dirty comms environment in the very near future here. Finally, what really makes this SOF peculiar is the environments that we ask our operators to operate in. For instance, we've got SEALs that are down in the bowels of ships in metallic passageways. That's a very difficult signals environment. We've got operators that are in cave and tunnel complexes, very complex tunnel complexes. That's a difficult signals environment. So we're looking for your help on how do we get after that. This is, if you're interested in this area, if this is your area, this is PEO C4. So I'd ask you to get to the PEO C4 talks. Assured maneuver. The National Defense Strategy calls this forward force maneuver. The idea that you can deploy, operate, regenerate, maneuver, all those things in a contested environment. And again, so this is key to our force. Do our operators have the confidence that they can get where they need to go? When they get to where they need to go, do they have the fire support they need that's able to maneuver in support of them? Do they have the exfil capability they need? Do they have the resupply support they need? So this freedom of maneuver, even in a contested environment, is something that we're looking for your help on. We got to be able to detect when, or to avoid detection, first of all, to know when we've been detected, and to take defensive measures against current and future threats in that environment. If you're interested in this area, this really gets to all of our platform PEOs, whether it's PEO fixed wing, PEO maritime, PEO rotary wing, and to a certain extent for the ground portion, PEO soft warrior. Related to that, again, in this idea of a dirty environment, we are absolutely, world-class at using GPS. We've got precision mobility, we've got precision munitions, we've got precision communications, all with GPS as an enabling technology. We cannot let GPS be the Achilles tendon of SOF operations. So we've got to find alternate means of giving that same precision to SOF operations in a GPS-denied environment. So what are the ways that we can shoot, move, and communicate even when we've lost GPS? So if you're interested in this area, I'd ask you, PEO Fixed Wing's working on this quite a bit. Our Science Technology Directorate's working on this quite a bit. And our PEO for C4. Likewise, we just talked about munitions. Here's an area where SOF's enjoyed a lot of success, precision munitions. But there's a unique set here that we really need to get after, and that's the idea that SOF's got, the expectation for SOF in this domain is very high. The expectation is that we can hit what we want, where we want, when we want, without damaging anything else in the area, right? So we're looking for a precision munition that can loiter, so I can have it in the area and bring it down on target when the fleeting opportunity presents itself. We're looking for a munition that's got the right effect and can hit the exact target we're trying to hit. And when it hits that target, it does not have collateral effects on the surrounding area, infrastructure, etc. So that's a tall order. I also need that munition to be able to be called off target at the last second if the situation on the ground changes. And then finally, if you can do that for me, I need that to be employable from the air domain, the maritime domain, and the ground domain. I'd prefer to have one munition that does that from all three domains, but if we have to have a family of munitions, we're interested in that as well. For this one, PEO Soft Warrior is going to primarily be responsible for the munition itself, and then the platform PEOs will be for integration. So integrating it on a fixed wing platform, PEO fixed wing, integrating on a maritime platform, PEO maritime. Counter IED and UAS. What's SOF peculiar about this? We think of counter UAS as a variant of counter IED. It's another way for the enemy to impact our formations or our partner formations in an asymmetric manner. The services are starting to think of this kind of as an air defense artillery. And the SOF peculiar piece of this is it's just one more piece of that RF environment, one more way that the enemy can try to get to us in an asymmetric manner that we're trying to get after. So what's important there is our focus again on that individual operator and the small team operator. We're looking for devices that are man-portable ideally, certainly lightweight, certainly low power, so that we can employ them in those formations. We want to be able to detect. That's in a Maslow's hierarchy of needs type of construct. The first thing you got to do is be able to detect these things. Whether it's an IED or a UAS. Then we'd like to be able to defeat it. That'd be good. That's the second layer. Ideally, we want to be able to intercept and exploit, right? In the idea of a find, fix, finish, exploit, and analyze, if I can exploit that device, IED or UAS, I can get after the network. So again, detect it, defeat it, exploit it, and analyze it would be very important to us. Let's see. Counter ID is PEO Soft Warrior. So if you're interested in this area, you've got some ideas to help us out, PEO Soft Warrior. Next generation ISR. Again, largely, our ISR has been phenomenal at supporting that F3EA cycle, specifically the find and fix portion of that. What happens in a future scenario where we don't have complete control of the air domain? Are our current ISR assets going to be applicable to that? What other domains can we use to get after ISR and to find and fix the enemy if it's not the air domain? You probably have many ideas on this. I'm just presenting two of them here. One is the space domain. We have a CubeSat program. You may be familiar with that within our PEO for SRSE. We've got 2 satellites flying today and a few more going up later on this summer. These are, if you're not familiar with CubeSats, they're fairly small packages, satellites in low Earth orbit. Currently, in our demonstration that we're doing, we're just doing comms. We're just picking up sensor data and piping it down to an operations center. But we're starting to look at payloads that will give us or enable us to support in the find and fix mission. And so we'd be interested in your ideas on payloads that would help us with that mission. How do we find and fix from the space domain? Likewise, I think everyone here knows, you've all got bank accounts and Facebook accounts and all that. And we all know the dangers there. We're all told that our online presence really amounts to, if someone's interested, they've got a pretty good digital pattern of life on you. They've got a pretty good digital residence on you, if you will. So is there something in the digital domain that we can use to help, again, support this find-fix portion of the cycle? We think there is. So if you're interested in this area, certainly for the space domain and for the digital domain, that's PEO SRSE. I encourage you to go see those folks over the next couple of days. We haven't given up on the air domain, of course, and the part of the ISR that we see as soft peculiar is really this tactical piece of ISR. So again, supporting those individuals and small teams with tactical assets for ISR in order to do find and fix. So what you see here is the beginning of a requirement document that we're calling Expeditionary, Organic, Tactical, Airborne ISR Capability Set, EOTAX, in one of the better names that we've come up with, EOTAX. But the name is pretty explanatory. You can see some of the requirements there. We're really talking about Group 1 and Group 2 UAS type of capabilities that we can get to the small team formations, multiple sensors, line of sight, beyond line of sight. It's really a family of systems, everything from nano UASs to around that Group 2 size. And so if you're interested in this area, PEO Fixed Wing, please attend some of the PEO Fixed Wing briefings. Managing signature. Just like we're trying to find and fix, we're trying to ensure that our operators cannot be found and fixed. We want the operators to stay hidden. And there's a physical domain to that, and there's that digital domain to that. This picture actually represents one of the most challenging aspects of that physical domain. That operator has probably swam a few hundred meters to get to that position. So you can imagine the thermal signature of that operator in contrast to the thermal signature of the body of water around him. That signature is very, very difficult to manage. So how do we manage the signature of an operator in all those spectrums to ensure that they can remain undetected when they want to be undetected? Likewise, we all know, again, that we have that digital residence, that digital pattern of life. How do we protect our operators from detection in the digital domain? Also interesting. So if you can help us with the physical presence, that's certainly PEO Soft Warrior and our S&T Directorate. If you can help us with that digital presence, that's PEO SRSE again. Information operations, military information support operations. This is an area, as you all know that follow the SOF community, this is a core competency for us. The ability to tell our message in clear text to a population. So how do you get access to that population in these contested environments we're talking about? And I think you would all agree that this is an area where any advantage that we've had is potentially been eroded. We've got some near-peer competitors out there that have gotten very good in the social media domain in beating us to the punch with their message. And I think we're gaining ground quickly, but that's something we've got to keep working on. And what we're really talking about here, and what I want to challenge you with a little bit more is, can I push that information support operations out to the edge? Those tactical units that are operating in and among a population or in close proximity to it that have the best knowledge of what's going on within that population, can I push the capability to them to target their messaging and to get feedback, almost real time or near real time of how that messaging is having an impact on the population or not? Is our message being heard? is an effective means of communication so that this U.S. story can get out there. If you're interested in this is PEO C4. Does our MISO, Military Information Support Operations, in support of SOF. Biomedical. Everyone here is familiar with the golden hour. The idea that if you can get an operator to a casualty to a primary care facility or to a greater facility of care within an hour, their probability of survival goes way up. Well, the truth is, SOF operations often take place outside that golden hour. They're operating in remote and austere locations. And so the challenge to y'all and to us is, how do we get that golden hour, that primary care-like capability, pushed as far forward as we can? So we're looking at things like proactive biomedical sensors that allow us to know when an operator is under stress before they become a casualty. We're looking at telemedicine so that we can get that like capability from a care facility forward to our fantastic medical personnel that operate with the teams. Likewise, we're trying to improve the quality of life for operators when they're out there in these remote and austere locations. You know, one of the things we hear often is, hey, I'm getting about 2 hours of sleep a night, and when I get that 2 hours of sleep, it's in a really uncomfortable position with the lights on and a lot of ambient noise. How can you make that 2 hours of really crappy sleep feel like 8 hours of sleep in your feather bed at home? So I think that's all doable, and I think that's actually something that's got a lot of commercial applicability that people will be interested in. So how do we do that? Biomedical, if you're interested in that area, PEO Soft Warrior and our Science and Technology Directorate. Expeditionary logistics. So the National Defense Strategy calls for resilient and agile logistics. Certainly that applies to special operations in spades. The idea that for special operations, you know, General Thomas mentioned 9,000 SOF operating in 90 different countries. And you all know, this is a pretty educated audience here, that doesn't mean there's, 100 in each of those countries, if I did that math right. It actually means there's around, 5,000 in one area, and then really small teams operating in a lot of those other countries. And so they're operating in these remote, austere locations at the very small team level. They can't afford to have a long log tail trailing along behind them. They need very agile logistics support that gets to them at the point of need, at the right time, with the right amount. So a great example of this, I think, those last two slides, that biomedical slide and this slide, I think really, we had some folks go downrange and visit our forces in Syria, and they were supporting a partnered force. And the partnered force was operating outside that golden hour. And the operators on the ground came up with you want to talk innovation, a fantastically innovative solution. They took these mobile technology repair complexes. These are shops in a box that we push out to the edge of the battlefield. These are, shops with a lathe and a drill press and a 3D printer, and most importantly, an engineer and a technician to operate all of it. These operators out there took that shop in a box. They took two individual container units, these sleeping units that folks would sleep in. They welded them together and they turned it into an emergency room. Surgical bed, IV hookups, all that good stuff. They put this unit on the back of a flatbed and they put it within a few hundred meters of the front lines of operation. And so they were doing combat medicine within a few hundred meters, well within the golden hour, in support of this partnered force. They were using freeze-dried plasma, which is another thing that's unique to the SOF environment right now. This idea that you can't carry around plasma with you because you got to keep it refrigerated, but you can use a powderized freeze-dried plasma. They were using that as well at this MTRC-built emergency room to support operations. That's a great example of logistics just in time, sustainment just in time at the point of need that our forces can use to support operations. Interoperable with partners. I hope a lot of you stick around for the session that follows this one, which is our Theater Special Operation Commanders session. They'll talk to you about working with partners in their theaters. I'm going to steal a little bit of the thunder. If you've got a piece of equipment that's really expensive, exquisite, requires a lot of fine-tuning to keep it in the fight. If we can't export it because of some elegant technology as part of it, it's not going to support partnered operations. What we need is affordable, exportable interoperable equipment to really enable partnered operations. And so that's what you're going to hear from the TSOC commanders this afternoon if you sit on that panel, if you listen to that. Okay, let me flip the coin here. I've been talking about what I need from you. Let me tell you what you can expect from us. This is, if you haven't dealt with SOF 18L before, if you cold call us, chances are you're going to be talking to one of these three people. They're not as friendly as they look. They really are. They are. They're a good bunch. On the left there is our technology industry liaison officer, and I want to debunk some myths here about this. If you call us and you contact our technology industry liaison office, also known as a TILO, you're not just talking to that one person. Sheldon's got a list of subject matter experts throughout the command that when you present a technology to her, she sends it off to her list of subject matter experts from the command. So you're actually getting feedback from many people. She takes that feedback back from them, these subject matter experts, and then sends you back a response. And that response back to you should be something along the lines of, hey, great idea, please bring us in for a briefing. Great idea, please provide some more information in the forms of a white paper. Great idea, please come to one of our technology experimentation events. Great idea, please bring this to SOFWorks. I'm going to talk about all this stuff in a second. But you should get feedback. And if you get feedback that just says no thanks, that's insufficient, and I want to know about it. But sometimes, quite honestly, the answer will be, hey, thank you for your interest, but we just can't use this technology right now, and here's why. You deserve to know why, but I think we also need to be intellectually honest with each other. Hey, we just can't use that right now. On the right-hand side is our small business team. Great point of contact for you. They will also answer non-small questions. So if you want to just cold call USSOCOM for SOF 18L, these are the guys that you would talk to. They do a fantastic job. We're very proud of our competition rates. We think that's important to the command. We compete about 73 cents of every dollar. We are also equally very pleased with our small business numbers. Not because we're trying to meet some DoD goal, but because we truly believe that small business is a great place for innovation, agility, and quite frankly, new ideas. So those numbers there, and that's not just these three folks again. They'll be the first ones to tell you that they're working with the PEOs, the product managers, and the contracting officers to make these things happen. Adaptive and responsive. This is a screenshot of our Vulcan display. And so for the next couple of slides, everything I'm talking about is next door in Ballroom D, where the Innovation Forum is. I'd really encourage you, if you're not part of the Vulcan stratosphere yet, I would encourage you to get over there. Vulcan is an online tool. It is a tool where you, as an industry partner, can enter into your technology, whether it's white papers, photos, videos, what have you. You can enter into that, and then all of us that have a DoD ID card, a government CAC card, we can see that technology. We can go through there. We can search that database. We can ask you questions. We can grade your technology. We can say, hey, I saw that technology last year at SOFIC. Here's my thoughts on it. And so you've got this really robust online forum. For you industry partners, what I think you should appreciate is that's a one-way street for you. That's you enter data, you get feedback on your information. You cannot see other folks' information. You cannot access other folks' information. So your information is protected. From a DoD perspective, you got a very large audience that you're presenting that to. The important thing here for me is, this is much larger than SOCOM. The Army is using this tool now in the Research and Development Command. DoD is using this tool now. In fact, I was just talking to the program manager next door in Ballroom D this morning that we really need to think about changing the name to something that's more intuitive, first of all, and something that doesn't have the dash SOF. It started here, but as General Thomas said, a good idea that starts here sometimes proliferates to the greater DoD, and this is something we want to get out there, and it's being used across the force. Let me talk about some of these other bullets on here. Other transaction authorities, or agreements rather. A fantastic tool for us, a fantastic ability for us to reach those of you that see DoD contracting or the FAR as a barrier to entry. This tool was specifically provided to us by Congress to get after those of you that don't have a core competency in DoD acquisition. But you've got a great technology we're interested in. So if you've got a prototype and you are not comfortable with DoD acquisition, talk to us about OTAs. We're developing our own competency in dealing with those, and they've been proven to be very useful. We've used them in support of the Tactical Assault Light Operator suit. We've used them in support of buying munitions for our Precision Guided Munitions program, and to great effect. Grants and cooperative agreements. I know there's at least one academic partner out here because I saw my friend from USF. But if you're an academic partner and you're not used to dealing in the contract world, we just received authority about 2 weeks ago to interact with you in grants. We've done grants before, but they were through a third-party entity, and so with the typical cost and schedule impact, we now can do that directly with you. So I want to roll that authority out. So come see me. We'll be the first ones to do a grant together with a USSOCOM grant. Partnership intermediary agreements, that is how we do SOFWorks. I've got another slide on SOFWorks here in a minute. We'll talk about that in greater detail, but we're using that to great effect. And of course, DIUX, you're all familiar with that. Sitting out there in the middle of Silicon Valley, we've got a good partnership with them as well. Time sensitive. Listen, my promise to you is I know the operator's expectations for schedule. In a world of cost, schedule, performance, there is a real emphasis on schedule that's appropriate to a combatant command and appropriate to a combatant command of USSOCOM with its relevancy on the current battlefield. So we spend all of our time thinking of ways to streamline our acquisition strategies and to tailor our contract strategies so we can get after schedule. And I need your help to do the same. If you think we're slow on schedule, challenge us on it. And then be prepared when we ask you why it's getting so long for us to negotiate a contract, etc. Tempo is an important part of our business here, and it's one of our things that separate us, I think, from maybe traditional acquisition. Partner and international. Big part of what we do, we've got a very robust foreign comparative test. So if there's a piece of equipment out there that a foreign country's got that we're interested in, we've got a great foreign comparative test ability to bring that piece of equipment in and test it and see if it makes sense for the soft formation. Likewise, through the coalition warfare program, if there's a technology that we need to develop, that we want to do that in step with a international partner, we've got a very robust coalition warfare. This picture here is of an M-Razor, and it's a great story in that this partnership goes both ways, right? A few years ago, we were very interested in moving this M-Razor from a gasoline engine to a diesel engine for all the battlefield reasons you can well imagine. As timing would have it, when we were prepared to buy those diesel engines, it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago in 2015, we were under a continuing resolution. And the rules of the game said that we could not do new procurement on a new end item, so we weren't able to procure it. One of our partnered countries bought those engines and shipped them to Fort Bragg. They had a common interest in the diesel engine, and they thought the best way for us to achieve our common purpose was that for them to buy it during their budget cycle. They weren't under a CR. I don't even know if they have a CR in that country or not. And they shipped those to Fort Bragg. We tested them at Fort Bragg. We had great results. It was a fantastic engine. I want to tell you now that every single M-Razor in our fleet, there's no more gas M-Razors. They are all diesel engines. And a lot of that happens to do with that partnered operation that allowed that to occur. So partnered operations in the acquisition space, big enabler for us. SOFWorks, I told you I'd talk about it. SOFWorks is a fantastic facility. It's just around the corner here in Ybor City. It is, if you haven't heard of it before, if you haven't touched it before, I'd be surprised if the majority of you haven't, but it is literally a brick and mortar facility. The first purpose of it was just to lower the barrier of entry for how you interact with us. You can literally walk off the street in Ybor City and walk into SOFWorks and pitch your idea and get feedback from folks associated with USSOCOM. This partnership intermediary agreement that we've got with the folks that run SOFWorks, what I'm paying them for really, quite frankly, is to develop a network. And so we've been doing this for about 3 years now. They've got a very robust network at this point. So if you're part of that network, thank you. If you're interested in being part of that network, come see us. SOFWorks is right next door in Ballroom D again. As a matter of fact, when you walk into Ballroom D, you'll see a whole set of screens lit up with each of the PEO's names above it. And what SOFWorks, the function that SOFWorks is helping us out to in this industry engagement is they've got all of the PEO's technology needs, and they've got shingle spaces there for you to put your name against. If you're interested in working with us on that technology gap, whether it's through a CRADA or IRAD or whatever, there's a spot for you to put your name up there that you're interested in working that technology gap. And if you wander back in there on Thursday morning, you'll see all the other folks that are interested in that same area, and you can choose to collaborate or look at who your competition is. But that's your choice. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to communicate again at a different level. This is, again, the National Defense Strategy calls on us to organize for innovation, and it calls on us to do acquisition at the speed of relevance. SOFWorks is one of our tools to address both of those things. Speed of relevance and organizing for innovation. Last slide for me. Very important to me that we are transparent. Very important to me that we keep clear lines of communication open with you all. We have recently gone through, so if you look down that list from top to bottom, we've recently gone through a redesign of our web portal. So our public portal, if you look at it now, there's a big yellow button that says doing business with USSOCOM. It's pretty clear text of where you need to go, and I think it's very user-friendly. It may not have been as user-friendly in the past. We've got a pretty good LinkedIn presence and a pretty good Twitter presence. So I'd ask you to, if you're interested in those kind of things, I'm finding LinkedIn very useful to again, thicken that network. I've talked about our small business opportunities. There's the names, phone numbers, and emails. I've talked about our Tylo office, names, numbers, emails. I've talked about Vulcan. There's the website for Vulcan. The last thing I really haven't talked about is these experimentation ideas. SOCOM runs 3 to 4 technical experimentation venues a year. These are great venues. Again, the business proposition here is we provide the range, we provide the operators, you bring your technology, we give you feedback. That's the exchange there. There'll be a BAA that goes out that'll announce when they're coming up. You submit your white papers, you get the invite, and you come out to the range. The next one we're doing is in July. It's at Fort AP Hill, and we're focusing mainly in the C4 realm, cyber realm, mobility platforms, and UAS. So that's another great place. Please visit that website if you're interested in that. It's a unique exchange opportunity I think we have here in the command with our Science and Technology Directorate. I will finish where I started by saying thank you. I'm really looking forward, I mean that almost honestly, to the question and answer period and just, interaction across the floor as you see me walk on the floor, etc. If you yell out Jim Smith and I don't turn my head, it's either because my hearing's going or I forgot that I was operating an alias, all right? So with that, General Thomas, I ask you to join us up here on stage. And sir, if it's okay with you, I'll start fielding that first question. I think that's in my lane. What does the future of USSOCOM science technology look like in the next 3 to 5 years? The past years have seen a reduction in R&D. Is that trend going to continue? Okay, so I guess first, maybe debunk a myth there a little bit. I would not say that our R&D has necessarily reduced over the last year. I think there's been some press out there about our R&D budget, that it's gone down a little bit in the most recent year. And that's, quite frankly, that is just part of the natural acquisition life cycle. That is the fact that many of our big platforms that we were doing R&D on have reached maturity and they're going into production. So that's a good news story. We're getting some really important kit out to the operators and going into production. So that's things like our Silent Night radar, big program for us, our dry combat submersible, big program for us, and some other ones. So I don't really think that you'll see any trend line about R&D. It was just a one-year blip, if you will. I will tell you, in a combatant command such as General Thomas's, there's always a natural focus of either near current readiness versus future technology, future capability. And our combatant commanders and our TSOC commanders, are in the close fight, and so they're looking at current readiness in a way that maybe our service counterparts are not. So we always have a good dialogue about the POM, about our program objective memorandum, about what's the right balance of R&D in the POM, and I think we're in a very good spot, specifically for a combatant command in getting after what the National Defense Strategy calls, legacy plus, and future. We're shifting that balance to the right to get after some of these far-term technologies.
Thanks, Jim. I actually heard somebody comment on the backside of your commentary. Hondo who? So well done. That was really well. Hey, the question that I'm fielding is, with the publication of the latest National Defense Strategy, do you foresee any radical shifts to USSOCOM's operational posture or investment strategy? First of all, the National Defense Strategy, which we are embracing going away, really did not have any significant or serious vectors for us or deviations for us that I am inclined to think are require or direct a shift in our investment portfolio. But there's a couple aspects of this. One, I'm excited by what the NDS entails, because I'd like to think that we are relevant to every threat that's described there, the operating paradigm, et cetera. Now, I've been coached that relevant is kind of a numb term. It doesn't dazzle. So I said, okay, well, we can be decisive relative to all the aspects of the National Defense Strategy. Depends on how you want to use us and how you understand the capabilities that are inherent in SOF. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to blossom and not be relegated to, oh, you're those low-intensity guys. You're the guys that just do CT. No, yes, we do that expertly, but we have exquisite capabilities that I think are absolutely fungible to what the NDS entails. Now, the aspect of near-peer competitors challenges some of the platforms that we're currently employing. They're not fungible. They can't cross over. They can't survive in a near-peer environment. So while what we are endeavoring to do is to identify what those future requirements will be, I am very concerned that we don't throw out the incredible lessons learned from 17 years of continuous combat that have some applicability to a future peer competitor. There are lots of them. We're actually going to school on ourselves to make sure that we don't disregard those lessons over time. I would hate to see a post-Vietnam phenomenon of we'll never fight that war again, only to realize that we threw out a lot of core competency as we step to a new defense strategy. So again, exciting times for us. I think you will see some changes in terms of our platform focus, but it's really geared towards how we compete and win against peer competitors.
Sure, thanks. So the next question up here with the, I really like this, by the way. It's got the number of votes liking. So I'll try to hit the one that's the next one here that's got the most number of votes. How is SOCOM using deep learning and artificial intelligence for awareness? What's the next big demo or milestone? So there are many ways that we're looking into artificial intelligence and deep learning. I think most of you are probably aware of this idea of Project Maven, which is really a DoD level effort that's focused in on the SOCOM ISR piece. But this idea of, we've got folks that stare at screens for many hours in the day watching an ISR feed. And is there something that we can do? It almost seems, custom made for machine learning type technology. Is there something we can do to help those operators cue to the really important information that's available there? So we're on the edge of that for DoD in this construct. And as you know, with machine learning and artificial intelligence, really the key part of this is the machine learning, the machine building the database, the machine learning to recognize different things. So we're in the process now of getting that robust database, that robust machine information, so that our probability of, yes, that's a red truck, goes from where it is today, a fairly low percentage, to a very high percentage. So that database, that's where we are right now, is building that maturity and keep feeding the machine more ISR so it can learn. But we're really excited about that. We're expanding that same idea into other areas where you can imagine our operators are coming across a vast amount of information. Again, that kind of feeds that find, fix, finish, exploit, and analyze cycle. That vast information, how do we get that into a machine learning construct so that we can feed that cycle that much faster and move at an op tempo?
Next up from Anonymous. Apparently it's the same person writing in every time. General Thomas, you have been a special operator longer than SOCOM has been in existence. Why am I sensing an old man jab there? I'm not going to take it personally. What is the biggest change you've seen in SOF? I would imagine that I'd get some strong agreement from our component commanders and across our TSOCs that we are no longer, and far past being an assemblage of disparate tribes that we're trying to jam together under one roof. We are an absolutely joint, combined, integrated interagency, international network, almost irresistible by design and by the way we operate every day. So I'd argue that's the biggest change. And where I see it most often challenged is when we're out on, you pick the battle space that we're operating in, and the soft presence is manifested in a small team, whether it's an ODA, a SEAL platoon, a MESO team. Invariably that leads to someone in authority wanting to own that asset. They want it under their command relationship. And the enlightened discussion we have these days is, nope, that's absolutely not the best and most optimized use of our force. We'd prefer to be supporting whatever the big campaign plan is and maintain our soft chain of command, which is joint all the way back to the mothership. In fact, when it gets too contentious, I usually remind people that, hey, that ODA terminates at my headquarters. I have combatant command of it. I'm not going to chop it away and cause it to be less capable than it can be in our construct. Tell us what you want done, and we'll get that done. But it's an absolutely ground, maritime, air force, as well as with a cyber capability, all integral to one command and pretty damn powerful.
Thanks, sir. The one I wanted to answer went off the leaderboard here, so I'm going to have to answer the next one. Along with rapid technology development, what is SOCOM doing to transform and develop future SOF operators ready for more complex and clandestine challenges? Yeah, I'd like to say I just went through 20 slides of that, but I think, again, one of the great things that I really appreciate about working at USSOCOM is, within General Thomas's total obligating authority, I've got a piece of that. But what we do for training and deploying the force in those service constructs, I think, are equally important to preparing the force to deploy and to enabling the force when they are deployed. So that's certainly a big challenge for us, is to enable our operators with the skills, if you will, to operate in that much more complex environment in the future. Having said that, I'll get back in my lane and talk about those technologies. So I do think what General Thomas talks about often is the operator is our platform. The operator is the survivable platform in a complex environment. How do we hyper-enable, to overuse that term a bit, but to get the fires to that operator, to enable that operator to be successful on the battlefield, to have effects in that complex environment? It's largely to do with that digital domain, and it's largely to do with that connectivity. So if you start to tie together, and this is something, if you find General Mundy, certainly from our MARSOC commander, and talk to him, this triad of the three, if you pull the three slides I talked about, tactical ISR, or expeditionary ISR, precision munitions, and the connectivity piece, you can have an individual operator that's got his own organic ISR to see what he needs to see, do his find and fix, and then to finish with precision munitions coming in support of him. To bring that all together with the exploit and analyze piece that a hyper-enabled operator ideally gets to, I think, is our greatest technical challenge.
Okay. I'm taking the same one. What is SOF's largest technological challenge? Okay, the question is, what is SOF's largest technological challenge? I'd offer, and it sounds like a big hand wave, information management, data management, but specifically how it contributes to decision making and shared awareness on across our network. So where we've had the most challenges in the quest for the forever quest for that common operating picture, I think the first acknowledgement is that there's nothing common about it. So the decisions that I need to make at my level, the information required to drive those decisions, is not the same information or the same decisions at a team level. Yet there's a shared aspect of the information as it pertains up and down through that paradigm. So how we manage an ever increasing amount of information and data that submerges our force is really one of the bigger challenges going forward. Now, truthfully, and your briefing reinforced it, one of my biggest concerns is how do we protect our network? So you might think I'd think our biggest technological challenge is how we can get out and get after something. I'm more concerned how we have this exquisite command control communication system, the most dispersed command and control communication system in all of DoD, with all those folks forward deployed. But right now we are fighting and surviving in a very, very challenged environment at a couple locations. And they're testing us. They're testing our ability for these networks to survive. And so how we acknowledge that that's going to be the future challenge. It even had one of our foreign partners here this week talking about when it gets too bad, do we have the core skill set to go back to old school, where we have no comms, where we're blacked out. And most of you remember, we used to train that way. That's how we were brought up, that despite the best advantages we have, it might go comms black, comms out. How are you still going to function? And so it's a dual challenge: protect that network, but then be able to operate if and that network is brought to its knees.
How does SOCOM help industry and industry help SOCOM with new STAR programs if we're going to continue to be under long-term CRs?
Please, God, no.
Sir, I think, actually, what I've talked to folks about is that's just the new normal, in my opinion. For as long as my career is going to go forward, I think we'll likely live in a scenario where we have to at least plan for CRs and expect CRs. So I think it's just the new normal. So how we operate together in that space, we should just rig for that now. I can tell you that I could give you some vignettes, but I'd probably embarrass some folks here, where we and our industry partner understood the specific impact of a CR, and we worked together to get through it. I also think that Congress understands the impact of a CR, and when we have the dialogue with Congress about specific impacts, we get some positive movement. In general, though, it's all about if you just plan that that's happening, if you know that FY19 will start off with a CR, we should be working now on those things to ensure that they're not new starts. We can do things in 18 to prep the battlefield for 19, and if we think we're going to award a new contract in October of 19, we're kidding ourselves, and we should be better than that. We think we're going to award a contract, quite frankly, in October of 18, January of 19. We should know better than that. Chances are that's going to be high risk, and we should plan today to get those things on contracts so we can move forward.
Next up, along with rapid technology development, what is SOCOM doing to transform and develop future SOF operators ready for more complex and clandestine challenges? I absolutely have to give props to our component commands, USSOC, AFSOC, NAVSPEC War, and MARSOC, for providing the most extraordinary training environment that gets after these problems. And to the real credit, and I commended this to our 06 commanders who I met with on Monday morning, the tendency now is more joint than ever. So it's not USSOC, AFSOC, NAVSPEC War, and MARSOC in their own domains. Assuming that they're going to be interoperable, they're driving each other together on almost every opportunity and trying to make sure we're forging the most competent, coherent joint force. So again, our components are doing a pretty wonderful job of addressing the challenges and the complexity in our training domain so that our operators are ready.
I'll take the next one, sir. How does SOCOM leverage the other transaction authority means to acquire products and services? I touched briefly on that, and I do think this other transaction agreements is a fabulous tool. So the way SOCOM does it is much like the rest of what I would consider the leaders in DoD. DARPA's got a real core competency in OTAs. DIUX has got a core competence in OTAs, and they're both doing the same way. They're going to these consortiums. The DOTC consortium out of Picatinny, New Jersey is probably the best example. And so we're doing the same thing. We are going to these consortiums and these centers of excellence for different technologies. I just was introduced to one this morning with the JPEO Chem Biodefense, has got a Ciberni type consortium for OTAs. And so we are looking at jumping from lily pad to lily pad to find these centers of excellence to leverage their OTA capability. Two things on that. One is we're starting to get a little bit of a signal from some of these OTAs as this has hit the press and Congress has encouraged us to use them, that some of them are saying, hey, no mas, I can't take any more work on. And so that's one challenge that we're looking at. The other thing we're looking at is, and I've asked my Director of Procurement, Colonel Chris Daniels, to look at this, is should there be a SOF peculiar consortium for OTAs? And I think there's some real capability there that we should be looking into together to see if there's something we should do there to make sure that we've got a outlet for those things that are soft peculiar to get after these other transaction agreements.
You're on a roll. I think those next 2 are yours too.
So we're almost out of time. Which PEO does the hyper-enabled operator fall under? Okay. Listen, I think that that's a multi-layered question. I think that there is a science technology piece to this. Certainly as we pursue, General Thomas's bar napkin there from 2003, there is a science technology piece still to that. This automated machine learning piece, artificial intelligence piece, we got to keep in the early technology area. Like I said, Tactical Assault Kit, this Android-based system that operators are wearing on their chest, is a PEO C4 product in combination with PEO Soft Warrior, working extremely well. So they've got a piece of that comms architecture. And then I think a lot of the software, et cetera, the digital piece of this will fall into PEO SE for it. So I think there's a multiple domain. The one thing that we're looking at, and certainly General Thomas has got me pushing towards, the biggest takeaway from the success of the Tactical Assault Light Operator suit is the construct of a joint acquisition task force. Operators, program managers, engineers, industry partners, all together on one task force working on the problem. And so I think we will most likely stand up a similar type of organization to work on the hyper-enabled operator. And I know General Thomas has got some ideas on that as well.
Very good.
Sir.
Do you want me to follow up on that one, or you want to?
It's up to you, sir.
Yeah. I'm just going to close, Jim, by thanking everybody for being here today and for what we can accomplish over the next couple of days. So thanks for the time. Thanks for your interest. Very much looking forward to walking the floor here and seeing what you have to offer and actually seeing how it applies to the wicked problems that we confront. So again, thanks for your time. Have a great day.
I just want to thank General Thomas again for his remarks. Very insightful. Jim Smith, or whatever we're going to call you here by the end of the week, thanks for laying out some very specific focus areas for us to get after. So we got some homework to do. I encourage you all to get upstairs. We have 2 key events left, a lot of events left, but 2 key ones. Jim already mentioned it. At 3:30, we got the TSOC panel right here. And then upstairs at 4:30, our networking social reception. Thank you all.
This is for your protection and ours, do you understand? But